Do not trust here. In this video, I'm going to break down what to actually invest in inside a Fidelity Roth IRA. I'm going to cover four things. First, the one rule that should decide what goes in a Roth versus everywhere else. Because a Roth IRA is not just another account, and treating it like one costs you money. Second, Fidelity Zero Expense Ratio Fund, what they actually track, and the catch nobody mentioned. Third, three specific portfolios with real ticker symbols, from the simplest possible version to a full three fund setup. And fourth, what does not belong in a Roth IRA at all. So let's get into it. Let's start with the rule because everything else follows from it. A Roth IRA grows completely tax free, and qualified withdrawals come out tax free. And you already pay tax on the money going in. That means every dollar of growth inside that account is a dollar you never pay tax on again. So the rule is this: your highest expected growth investment belong in the Roth, not your safest one, not your income producing ones, the ones you expect to grow the most, because that growth is the thing the Roth actually protects. People get this backwards constantly. They put conservative holding in the Roth because it's retirement money, and retirement feels like it should be safe. They put their aggressive growth holding in a taxable brokerage account where every gain gets taxed. That's the tax advantage pointed at the wrong asset. In 2026, you can put $7,500 in. If you are 50 or older, the catch up is 1100, which brings you to 8,600. That catch up number moved this year for the first time in history of the IRA. It was frozen at a flat $1,000 for decades until an inflation index and provision took effect. I'll say this once and then move on. I found a Fidelity Roth IRA guide updated in May of this year. Still printing 7,000 and 8,000. Those are last year's numbers. Check the date on anything you read about contributing limits, including what I'm saying in this video. If this is useful so far, subscribe. I update these as numbers actually change. New Fidelity Zero Fund. I'm sorry, now Fidelity Zero Fund. In 2018, Fidelity launched Index Fund with a 0.0% expense ratio, not low, zero. There are four of them. FZROX tracks the total US stock market and hold roughly 2,700 stocks. FZILX covers international. FNILX is large cap. FZIPX is extended market, meaning small and mid caps. According to Fidelity own site with expense ratio information as of February 1st, 2026, those funds charge nothing and have no minimums. Now, the catch, and there are actually two of them. The first one, people repeat. The Zero Fund track Fidelities on proprietary indexes so they cannot be transferred and kind to another brokerage. If you ever move your account to Schwab or Vanguard, you have to sell them first, right? And here's why that matters much less than it sounds inside a Roth. Selling inside a Roth IRA is not a taxable event. You sell, you transfer cash, you rebuy. Simply annoying or slightly annoying. Costs you nothing. In a taxable brokerage account, that same forced sell could trigger capital gain, which is a real problem. So the portability complaint is legitimate reason to avoid zero fund in a taxable account, and a weak reason to avoid them in a Roth IRA. The second catch is the one that actually trips people up. FNILX is not the S&P 500. It tracks a Fidelity large cap index that behaves similarly, but it's not the same index. If you specifically want the S&P 500, that's FXAIX at 0.015%. 15 cents per $1,000 a year. If you want the total market, you are staying at Fidelity. FZROX at zero is the clear choice. For scale on what that fee difference is worth, FZROX at zero versus a comparable fund at 0.03% works out roughly $9,000 over 30 years on a $100,000 balance. Real, but not life changing. The much bigger mistake is picking an actively managed fund charging half a percent or more. And if the portability thing generally bothers you, some people do plan to move brokerages. There's a clean alternative inside Fidelity. FSKAX is Fidelity's total market index fund. It holds over 3,000 stocks. It charges 0.015% and it transfers to any brokerage without being sold. So the real choice is zero fees but lock into Fidelity of 15 cents per $1,000 a year and fully portable. Inside a Roth IRA, I'll lean towards the zero per fund in the taxable account FSKAX. Let me put actual numbers on why any of this matters. If you contribute the full $7,500 a year and it grows at 7% annually, after 30 years, that's somewhere around $700,000. And inside a Roth, none of the growth is taxed on the way out. Now, I want to be careful here. 7% is an assumption, not a promise. And actual return vary enormously year to year. FNILX returned roughly 15.8% over the past year, and FZROX about 15.5, but single year numbers tell a very little about a 30-year hold. The point is only that the tax-free wrapper is doing meaningful work over the horizon, which is why what you put in inside it matters. Now, the actual portfolio, three versions. The simplest possible version is one fund, FZROX 100%. Total US market, roughly 2,700 companies, zero fees. If you are early in your career and you want to stop thinking about this, that is a defensible answer and it beats not investing because you couldn't decide. The two fund version adds an international, something like 8% FZROX and 20% FZILX, still zero cost. Now, globally, diversify across more than 5,000 companies. The three fund version adds bonds, FZROX for US stocks, FZILX for international, and FXNAX for bonds, which tracks the Bloomberg US Aggregated Bond Index at 0.25%. A common split is 60-20-20, but the bond allocation should scale with how close you are to needing the money, not with a number I give you in a video. And if none of that appeals, there's a fourth option, a Fidelity Freedom Index target date fund. Pick the one closest to your retirement year and it shifts from stocks to bond automatically as you age, around 0.12%. One thing to catch, Fidelity runs two versions and only the index one are low cost. The actively managed Fidelity Freedom Fund charge subsequently more than the same basic idea. Make sure the word index appears in the fund name before you buy. Now, let me cover the steps before people actually get stuck or where people actually get stuck. Because picking the fund is not the same as owning it, when money lands in your Roth IRA is not invested. It sits there as cash. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it because it's the single most common failure I see. People do the hard part, fund the account, and assume the rest is automatic. It isn't. So inside Fidelity, you search the ticker FZROX or whichever you pick. You enter a dollar amount, not a number of shares. Fidelity mutual funds accept exact dollar amount. So all 7,500 gets invested rather than leaving an awkward remainder in cash. Then you place the trade. Mutual fund orders price once a day at market close. So don't be alarmed when it doesn't fill instantly. Then set up automatic recurrent investments. So this happens whether or not you remember. Roughly $625 a month get you to the full 7,500 over a year, and it removes the decision from entirely process entirely. Now, what does not belong in a Roth IRA? Municipal bond. They're already tax exempt, so putting them in a Roth wastes the entire advantage. You're using a tax shelter on something that was never taxed. CDs and money market funds, low expected growth means there's very little gain on the Roth to protect. That's not the same as saying they're bad. It's saying the Roth is the wrong container to put them. An individual stock picking the most people, not because it's forbidding, but because a Roth has a hard annual contribution limit. If you lose money in a taxable account, you can at least harvest the loss against your taxes. In a Roth, a loss is just a loss, and you cannot put the money back beyond the limit. The contribution room is the scarcity thing. Last thing, this is educational, not financial or tax advice, and I'm not a tax professional. Expense ratios and contribution limits both change. Verify this at fidelity.com or IRS.gov before you buy anything. But if your Roth IRA is currently sitting in cash because you open it and then froze at the fund selection screen, that's the actual problem worth solving today. An uninvested Roth IRA earns nothing, and the contributing contribution room you didn't use does not roll forward.